Hare Krishna. Whoa. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I was listening to the original tapes, Srila Prabhupada recordings he made dictating the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita. It's over 3 hours long. And I'll put the link to it. I'll post a link to it. And so I listened to the whole thing. And there was one section in there. I mean, Prabhupada just gives everything, from A to Z. By the time he's done with the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, you're in Goloka Vṛndāvana. I mean, it starts with the three modes of nature. It goes, and then you end up in Vṛndāvana. He's like that. But there was this one section here that, every possible argument or challenge to the absolute truth, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prabhupada has defeated. It's somewhere in his lectures or his classes or his books. And the arguments are very clear, crystal clear, and you don't have to invent some way to try and prove the existence of Krishna if you're faced with someone who's determined that there is no Krishna. Because the arguments are already there. The examples are already there. Everything's already there. We just have to study how Prabhupada dealt with these things, what he said. And he's perfect. His arguments are perfect. So this was one of those really sweet finds for me, because we hear, what is it? Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Yeah. Right. 3 features. Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Yeah, I know that already, right? Yeah, sure. But here in this little section, in the, I don't know what page it's on. I don't have the page here, page number. Prabhupada, just in a few sentences, so clearly and perfectly illuminates the whole thing. The Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan issue. Just amazing. So I wanted to read just a little paragraph here. And I wanted to read it. It is also explained in the Gita that impersonal Brahman is also subordinate to the complete. Brahman is more explicitly, he was discussing, I think, the material energy. Yeah, that is, he was discussing how his energies are all subordinate to him. So he explains, Krishna explains that the impersonal Brahman is also subordinate to the complete. Brahman is more explicitly explained in the Brahma Sutra to be like the rays of the sunshine. The impersonal Brahman is the shining rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Impersonal Brahman is incomplete realization of the absolute whole, and so also is the conception of Paramatma in the 12th chapter. I think he's, chapter of what, but he was talking about Brahma Sutra, so maybe the 12th chapter. Anyway, it's also incomplete, Paramatma. There it shall be seen that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Purushottama, is, I think Purushottama means one who is glorified who's glorified with verses. Purushottama is above both impersonal Brahman and the partial realization of Paramatma. We know that already, right? Yeah, how many times have we heard that? About 10 zillion. Okay, great. So we all agree, theoretically. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is called Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. Okay? The Brahma Sanhita begins in this way. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha Anada Adi Govinda Saga Karana Karanam. Krishna is the cause of all causes. He's the primal cause, and he is the very form of eternal being, knowledge, and bliss. Now here's the sentence that it's such a jewel. I mean, try to capture this. I mean, just try to enter into the spirit of realization of this verse, of this sentence. Prabhupada says, impersonal Brahman realization is the realization of his sat, or his being, his existence, eternal existence. The impersonal Brahman is the realization of his sat, his being feature. Paramatma realization is the realization of the chit, eternal knowledge feature. Paramatma and the knowledge feature. That's the realization of the eternal knowledge feature. But realization of the personality of Godhead, Krishna, is realization of all the transcendental features. The sat, the chit, the ananda, the being, knowledge, and bliss in complete vigraha form. Now, how cool is that? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada continues, people with less intelligence consider the supreme truth to be impersonal. That's his sat feature, his existence feature. He exists, but that's it. We don't know what he is, or we don't know beyond that except that there is the existence of something. But he is a transcendental person. He's a person. And this is confirmed in all Vedic literatures. Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. As we are all individual living beings and have our individuality, the Supreme Absolute Truth is also, in the ultimate issue, a person. And realization of the personality of Godhead is realization of all the transcendental features, the sat, the chit, the ananda, in the vigraha. The complete whole is not formless. If he is formless, or he is less than any other thing, it cannot be the complete whole. The complete whole must have everything within our experience and beyond our experience. Otherwise, it cannot be complete. The complete whole personality of Godhead has immense potencies. Sat, Chit, Ananda, Vigraha. How cool is that? Prabhupada's so clear. Just so clear. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So there he is, late at night and the wee hours of the morning when everyone's sleeping. He's dictating in ecstatic trance of love of Godhead. Hare Krishna, Bhagavad Gita. Ah, Krishna. So, we read a little bit of Krishna book. Where are we anyway? We're starting a new chapter. Devastating rainfall in Vṛndāvana. Oh, that's when Indra becomes very upset about the residents not offering him proper respect and worship for the service he does of making sure there's ample rain for everything. He gets very angry and he tries to drown everyone. These controllers, they go off sometimes. They all do. They all get carried away by their sense of power and self-importance. Although they're devotees, but they have to be corrected. So we'll see how Krishna deals with King Indra's tantrum. Okay, Krishna. To get new strings on these things. Oh, wouldn't work. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Vṛndāvana Girivaridhari Yasodhanandana Prashashana Randana Yamuna Tira Manachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Summary study of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Chapter 25, Devastating Rainfall in Vṛndāvana. When Indra understood that the sacrifice offered by the cowherd men in Vṛndāvana was stopped by Krishna, he became angry, and he vented his anger upon the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana, who were headed by Nanda Maharaj, although Indra knew perfectly well that Krishna was personally protecting them. As the director of different kinds of clouds, Indra called for the Samvartaka. This cloud is invited when there is a need to devastate the whole cosmic manifestation. The Samvartaka was ordered by Indra to go over Vṛndāvana and inundate the whole area with an extensive flood. Demonically, Indra thought himself to be the all-powerful Supreme Personality. When demons become very powerful, they defy the Supreme Controller, Personality of Godhead. Indra, though not a demon, was puffed up by his material position, and he wanted to challenge the Supreme Controller. He thought himself, at least for the time being, as powerful as Krishna. Indra said, "Just see the impudence of the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana. They're simply inhabitants of the forest, but being infatuated with their friend Krishna, who's nothing but an ordinary human being, they have dared to defy the demigods." Krishna has declared in the Bhagavad Gita that the worshippers of the demigods are not very intelligent. He has also declared that one has to give all kinds of worship and simply concentrate on Krishna consciousness. Krishna is invoking the anger of Indra and later on chastising him is a clear indication to his devotee that those who are engaged in Krishna consciousness have no need to worship any demigod, even if it is found that the demigod has become angry. Krishna gives his devotees all protection, and they should completely depend on his mercy. Indra cursed the action of the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana and said, "By defying the authority of the demigods, the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana will suffer in material existence. Having neglected the sacrifice to the demigods, they cannot cross over the impediments of the ocean of material misery." Indra further declared, "These cowherd men in Vṛndāvana have neglected my authority. On the advice of this talkative boy who is known as Krishna. He's nothing but a child, and by believing this child they have enraged me." Thus he ordered the Samvardhaka cloud to go and destroy the prosperity of Vṛndāvana. "The men of Vṛndāvana," said Indra, "have become too puffed up over their material opulence and their confidence in the presence of their tiny friend Krishna. He is simply talkative, childish, and unaware of the complete cosmic situation, although he is thinking himself very advanced in knowledge. Because they have taken Krishna so seriously, they must be punished, and so I have ordered the Samvardhaka cloud to go there and inundate the place. They should be destroyed with their cows." It is indicated here that in the villages or outside the towns, the inhabitants must depend on the cows for their prosperity. When the cows are destroyed, the people are destitute of all kinds of opulences. When King Indra ordered the Samvardhaka and companion clouds to go to Vṛndāvana, the clouds were afraid of the assignment. But King Indra assured them, "You go ahead. I will also go riding on my elephant, accompanied by great storms, and I shall apply all my strength to punish the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana." Ordered by King Indra, all the dangerous clouds appeared above Vṛndāvana and began to pour water incessantly with all their strength and power. There was constant lightning and thunder, blowing of severe wind, and incessant falling of rain. The rainfall seemed to fall like piercing sharp arrows. By pouring water as thick as pillars without cessation, the clouds gradually filled all the lands of Vṛndāvana with water. There was no visible distinction between higher and lower land. The situation was very dangerous, especially for the animals. The rainfall was accompanied by great winds, and every living creature in Vṛndāvana began to tremble from the severe cold. Unable to find any other source of deliverance, they all approached Govinda to take shelter at his lotus feet. The cows especially, being much aggrieved from the heavy rain, bowed down their heads, and taking their calves underneath their bodies, they approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead to take shelter of his lotus feet. At that time, all the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana began to pray to Lord Krishna. "Dear Krishna," they prayed, "you are all-powerful, and you are very affectionate to your devotees. Now please protect us who have been much harassed by angry Indra." Upon hearing their prayer, Krishna could also understand that Indra, being bereft of his sacrificial honor, was pouring down rain that was accompanied by heavy pieces of ice and strong winds, although all of this was out of season. Krishna understood that this was a deliberate exhibition of anger by Indra. He therefore concluded, "The demigod who thinks himself supreme has shown his great power, but I shall answer him according to my position, and I shall teach him that he is not autonomous in managing universal affairs. I am the supreme Lord over all, and I shall thus take away his false prestige, which has risen from his power. The demigods are my devotees, and therefore it is not possible for them to forget my supremacy. But somehow or other he has become puffed up with material power, and thus is now maddened. I shall act in such a way to relieve him of his false prestige. I shall give protection to my pure devotees in Vṛndāvana, who are at present completely at my mercy, and whom I have taken completely under my protection. I will save them by my mystic power." Thinking in this way, Lord Krishna immediately picked up Govardhan Hill with one hand, exactly as a child picks up a mushroom from the ground. Thus, he exhibited his transcendental pastime of lifting Govardhan Hill. Lord Krishna then began to address his followers. My dear brothers, my dear father, my dear inhabitants of Vṛndāvana, you can now safely enter under the umbrella of Govardhan Hill, which I have just lifted. Do not be afraid of the hill and think it will fall from my hand. You have been too much afflicted from the heavy rain and strong wind. Therefore I have lifted this hill, which will protect you exactly like a huge umbrella. I think this is a proper arrangement to relieve you from your immediate distress. Be happy along with your animals underneath this great umbrella. Being assured by Lord Krishna, all the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana entered beneath the great hill and appeared to be safe, along with their property and animals. The inhabitants of Vṛndāvana and their animals remained there for 1 week without being disturbed by hunger, thirst, or any other discomforts. They were simply astonished to see how Krishna was holding up the mountain with the little finger of his left hand. Seeing the extraordinary mystic power of Krishna, Indra, the king of heaven, was thunderstruck and baffled in his determination. He immediately called for all the clouds and asked them to desist. When the sky became completely cleared of all clouds and there was sunrise again, the strong winds stopped. At that time, Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, known now as the lifter of Govardhan Hill, said, My dear cowherd men, now you can leave and take your wives, children, cows, and valuables, because everything is ended. The inundation has gone down, along with the swelling waters of the river. All the men loaded their valuables upon carts and slowly left with their cows and other paraphernalia. After they had cleared out everything, Lord Krishna very slowly replaced Govardhan Hill exactly in the same position as it had been before. When everything was done, all the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana approached Krishna and embraced him with great ecstasy. The gopis, being naturally very affectionate to Krishna, began to offer him curd mixed with their tears, and they poured incessant blessings upon him. Mother Yasoda, Mother Rohini, Nanda, and Balaram, who is the strongest of the strong, embraced Krishna one after another, and from spontaneous feelings of affection, blessed him over and over again. In the heavens, different demigods from different planetary systems, such as Siddhaloka, Gandharvaloka, Charanaloka, also began to show their complete satisfaction. They poured showers of flowers on the surface of the earth and sounded different conch shells. There was beating of drums, and, being inspired by godly feelings, residents of Gandharvaloka began to play on the tempuras to please the Lord. After this incident, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, surrounded by his dear friends and animals, returned to his home. As usual, the gopis began to chant the glorious pastimes of Lord Krishna with great feeling, for they were chanting from the heart. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 25th chapter of Krishna, devastating rainfall in Vṛndāvana. So then we'll have some accounts of what people were experiencing after this incident. And then King Indra, he steps forward to surrender. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Chaitanya.